I'm always forgetting something. But another thing I wanted to talk about is to my parents, speaking of summer camps, try to do your research before enrolling them. Like I said before, I wanted to talk about a little bit, in addition to putting my son in the free camps and a go away camp, I also, when my son was in kindergarten, I believe he was going to first grade. He was so little and cute and whatever. I decided to put him in basketball camp. You know, I used my tax money. I was like, you know what? I always used to take him away for, like, we always went away every year. And so I was like, well, I had some extra money because I always got back a really good amount. So I'm like, you know what? Let me, I didn't have no extra bills, none of that, So I was like, let me invest in summer camp because, at that time I didn't know about the free camps. So I was like, well, let me put him in basketball camp. He's a boy, whatever. So he come home and he tell me he was being bullied by some boy. So I called the director. This lady, I wish I remembered her name because she was so nasty. And I didn't have a YouTube channel back then, but she might be closed, open, whatever. But if you guys are in the East New York area, Starrett City, it's a big poster, like you can't miss it. But it's a basketball camp, whatever. It's a West Indian lady. She's very nasty, very nasty. And I still let him go anyway. Like, from the moment I spoke to her on the phone, she was like, oh, she wanted to see his report card, behavior chart, whatever. And I'm like, well, my son has good behavior, but he not perfect. Like, I was just being honest. I'm like, he's not perfect. He never been suspended or nothing, but little things that he do, like if his hands are not folded, he gets a write-up. I'm like, my son go to charter school, so the report card is going to have little notations of his behavior. I'm just letting her know, like, you can't go by a report card and what they saying behavior-wise because charter school is very meticulous. I'm telling her this. She's like, oh, I don't understand why you're reluctant to da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I'm not reluctant. I'm just letting you know that charter school is very strict. Like, he could sit there and not fold his hands. That's an infraction. Or let's say if he raises his hand after they told him to put his hand down, that's an infraction. They write all of that on the report card. So I'm telling her this and she's not listening. She's like, oh, this is mind blowing. Like, she was just making it more than what it was. I'm like, miss, my son is not a bad kid. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He's very well behaved. What I'm saying to you is you're saying that you want to see his report card. And I'm like, what the fuck does a report card have to do with this summer camp is what I'm trying to understand. She's like, oh, well, we want to make sure that the child is whatever. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to me is what I'm telling you, because kids act differently. Just because a kid is one way in school, that don't mean he gonna act that way in summer camp. That's what I'm trying to tell her. So me and her got into a little argument with that. Then my son was coming home saying that he was bullied. He was getting bullied. And I'm like, it was crazy because he was only 5 years old. And I didn't really pay it no mind at first because I know he was getting like teased and stuff in school. It wasn't nothing serious because with his school, what I loved about it is when somebody did try to mess with him, they called me immediately. So y'all can say what y'all want about charter school, but when my son's charter school, Uncommon, when stuff would happen, they immediately always called me. One time, that's why I don't like public school, because I tried public school. I actually put my son in public school for pre-K. A kid bit his hand. You know what the teachers told me? Oh, that's kids. Like, that's normal in public school. Like, they don't see it as an issue or a problem, especially in the urban communities. If something happens with your child, they feel like that's normal. Oh, they fighting. Oh, that's kids. That's what the teachers are gonna say to you. Oh, that's kids. That's what kids do. It's normal behavior for your child, for children to fight, children to be biting hands. That's normal. That's considered normal behavior, right? So to me, that's not normal. That's not acceptable. As a teacher, you should be like, I'm sorry this happened to your son. That child was disciplined. That's what I wanted them to say, and they didn't say it. I didn't even wait till my son was finished with the school year. I pulled him out. It was like May when that happened. I pulled him out, and my parents watched him up, and the social worker called me like, oh, you're not going to bring him to step up? I said, no, y'all good. And so I told them, I was like, my son going to charter school. I can't with this public school shit. Whatever. So I put him in charter school, and he been good ever since. He had his services. So people, oh, they don't do services and they don't accept special ed kids. That's a lie. Oh, they da-da-da-da. It's all rumors to discourage you. So to my parents, do your research. I'm not saying all charter schools are perfect, but do your research. That's all you have to do. Don't listen to the naysayers, because let me tell you something. Those same naysayers have their degrees and doing very well in life. And they won't tell you, but a lot of people went to specialized schools. Okay? A lot of these teachers, they didn't go to the neighborhood schools. Some of them did. But for the most part, somewhere along in their high school level, whatever, they went to specialized high schools. They did not go to no schools in no fucking hood. So that's why I don't understand how so many public school teachers, they hate charter schools, but they went to schools that were strict like charter schools. They like hypocrites. Like, oh, public. Y'all didn't go to the schools in the hood, a lot of y'all. So why y'all hating on structure? That's what y'all grew up on. Then you got some teachers that went to prep school. You got teachers who went to Catholic schools. You got teachers who, from all walks of life, their parents are, doctors and lawyers and come from well-to-do families. And they might have went to public schools, but they didn't go to no hood booger public schools. They went to the specialized, bougie public schools where there was discipline, so don't let them fool you. Anyway, so with this camp, I was not feeling her vibe, but over my better judgment, I still paid my money, whatever, for this camp. He was coming home saying that he was bullied. I was like, huh? So I told the director. She was like, oh, that's not true. No, first her reaction was, oh, they boys. So, because my son was like, they were aggressive. They was pushing him on the floor and stuff like that. And they was like harassing him in the locker room. Or no, harassing him during changing or something like that. So I told my father, and he's like, oh, that's locker room talk. I'm like, my son is 5. I don't think that's appropriate. Locker room talk, okay. But I'm telling her this, and her attitude was, oh, that's just boys, and that's the way they're gonna be playing. I said, miss, my son is 5 years old. What is you talking about? Like, and I remember telling my coworkers, they like, yo, she's bugging. Like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like, she didn't care because it wasn't her kid or her grandkid. This was an older woman too. So fast forward to, they had like I pulled him out and I put him in karate camp. So I'm thinking, oh, karate camp, da-da-da. My son did like it, and he didn't get teased or bullied or nothing like that. So I finds out that the karate camp, and this is in downtown Brooklyn, they be emailing me to this day. And let me tell y'all, they had the kids. Now, mind you, it's expensive. I think I was paying like, what was I paying? They charged me, I had to pay like, because I paid like $1,700 for the basketball camp. And then for the karate camp, I remember I paid like at least $300-$400. He was there for like 2 weeks. It was expensive. And then I finds out that they and my son loved it. That's the funny thing. But they wasn't doing nothing with them all day. This is what they used to do. So camp was over at 6. And I would come pick him up like 5:30, and they would be doing the karate. So it's like when you get there and you picking your child up, it's like, oh, they doing karate. But my son told me, he was like, in the morning, they would eat breakfast and watch TV all day, and they wouldn't do karate until the parents was picking them up to make it look like they was doing something. I was like, dumb motherfuckers. I didn't even bother to say anything. I just pulled him out and I put him right back in the basketball camp. So luckily with the basketball camp, the kids had stopped teasing him because they had missed him. And the coach, he was really good. Like, he was very, he was good. Because see, my whole thing is you don't have to agree with me, but you need to have some type of empathy. So he had empathy, and he talked to the kids for me and for my son. He was like, y'all happy to have Antonio back, right? He said, you have to be nice to people, because you see he was going, because all the kids, including the boy that was bullying him, where were you, Antonio? We missed you, da-da-da-da. So when he, and, my son was so grateful that I pulled him out for 2 weeks, because it made them miss him. So sometimes that works. Sometimes, you can't do that with school. But with the camp, like, the kids actually missed him. They felt bad. The coach was like, yo, Antonio going because y'all mean. That's why he left. Like, he was talking it up. And I was telling the coach, like, thank you. He was like, yeah, you got to be nice to people, because y'all have to understand this is camp. Y'all, Antonio don't have to be here. That's why his mother pulled him out. He's back now, but y'all got to be mindful, like, be nice to each other, because that person may not be here tomorrow. X, Y, and Z. The summer go away. Like, he was really good. He was excellent. He was like, he apologized. He's like, I didn't even know that was happening with your son. It's just teaching me to be more observant, because at the end of the day, we don't want kids to have low self-esteem. We don't want them to be depressed. I was like, yeah, because, bullying affects people differently. And a lot of people say, oh, kids are weak nowadays. We weak too, because all the millennials is in therapy and on substances. So we weak too. So I'm not on substances and in therapy, but most people are in, they have issues because of bullying, But, yeah, so, the day of the championship or competition or whatever, he played his little basketball game, and I still got the pictures, and everybody got a trophy. He was the winning team. It was so cute. They were only 5 years old playing defense. I thought that was so cute. It was so cute, the little game that they played. And then fast forward, he played basketball again in school, 6th grade. But that's when he realized he didn't like basketball. But it was so cute, little 5-year-olds playing basketball. It was so cute. They had like food and stuff like that. And the lady, I don't remember what she said, but she was rude to me. And that's what made me not bring him back, because the director, I'm sorry, the coach was good. The coach was good, but the director, she was an asshole. I'm like, nah, I'm not bringing my son back to this shit. But yeah, her attitude was wrong. And then the day of the competition, all the parents, we all got together and we were talking and comparing notes. So they was asking me like, yo, how much did you pay? And I was like, $1,700. They was like, $1,700? The lady charged me and my husband over $2,000. Da 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 da. And I was telling her, I was like, I think she go by income. She's like, that's not right. She's like, if she charged you $700, she was like, if she charged you $1,700, all of us should have paid $1,700. I said, well, no, I'm like, but that is true though. Like, you shouldn't be charging different prices. She said at the end of the day, you could be making more than me and my husband. Like, that's just an assumption that we could afford. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, because you're a single. She was like, granted, you're a single parent, but she's like, she's making an assumption because you guys, not all single parents is broke out here, which is true. So she's making an assumption that a married couple is making more, when she was like, she don't know if I work. She don't know if my husband is the one that's making all the money and we're struggling, and, you know, that could be a rental. You know, okay, she see us with a car, but that don't mean nothing. Like, you know, we got other children, da 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 da, which is true. You shouldn't be charging different prices because you're making an assumption of a person's income. That isn't right. So, and there was some other things that people didn't like about the camp. So I was like, it felt good because for me, whenever I have an issue, I'm never the only one. Like, people will make you feel like, oh, you're the only parent that's complaining, or no. If you feel something, say something. That's what I had to reiterate in this second video. If you feel something, say something. And 9 times out of 10, you're not the only one that feel away. So when we were sitting there and the kids were playing ball, it was refreshing that all the parents, we was getting together just chatting it up. Like, yo, this bitch, da 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 da. I was like, yo, I felt the same way. And they was like, no, I'm not bringing my kid here next summer. I was like, I feel you. I feel you. But yeah, it was in the Starray City area. I don't know if it's still open, but yeah, it's like the camp itself was okay, but the director was just, her attitude was, I wish I could remember exactly what she said to me, but it was so rude. Like, it was just like, she knew I wasn't coming back. She knew I wasn't going to bring my son back. So I guess she was just mad, but it's like, fix your attitude. This is why people don't even support black businesses, because when we do support y'all don't appreciate it. Y'all feel like y'all could just act any certain way. Fuck you. Fuck you. And those are my thoughts.